is the Aqua Sensory podcast. I'm your host, Jo Wilson. In this show, you will learn all about sensory harmony in water for babies and the early years. Because when we grow to love, connect and respect water, learning follows naturally. So at Aqua Sensory, we create sensory harmony in water and we understand child development. We have a hold and move called Barefoot Babes, and we often talk to new parents about how to ground their feet on the pool floor and really find their feet as new parents as well. So when I saw a book called Finding Their Feet, I was so drawn to buying and reading it, and I'm so excited to welcome the author today, Bernie Landels. Thank you so much for our connection.
Oh, look, it's absolutely wonderful to be here and talking to your audience about something that I'm really passionate about and how our two passions of water and feet play together so well.
They do. And I think when we're in the water as swim teachers, we just think of children's feet and babies' feet as just something that we've got to almost like teach to kick. And we maybe don't really sort of think too much about the feet in the pool. But there are so many amazing benefits, and particularly we're so privileged of having barefoot babies in the pool. So let's connect some dots together. How is child development so good for babies and young children? Let's start obviously at their feet.
So, every baby, everything going well, is born to walk. And so in terms of development, we start from those kicks in the womb to the baby pushing themselves out of the womb. And their goal is to get up and walk and run and jump and move. If you think about, animals that are born, within moments, they're up and walking. Obviously, our little people take a little bit more time for various reasons of things like bonding and, becoming dependent. So as parents, we become responsible. But every child has a blueprint. And I think this is something that often gets overlooked. It's a sequential set of events that happen, and they have to happen in a particular order. So the journey from womb to walking is a critical time for these events to happen. And with that, that's their physical development. And it happens, you get the growth, the movement, the milestones that they progress through. And it's the optimal physical development that helps with good health. It sets the scene for good health. If everything is in balance in the body, we are healthy. But the thing that I like to tell people about is the foot obviously is involved in walking, but it actually doesn't fully mature until the age of sort of 15, 16. Wow. And so it's crucially important that we look after the feet in these early years to set the stage or the foundation for good health.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I never knew that it was, as you say, so immature and it took so long to develop. So it makes sense to, as you say, to really, really look after it. That's amazing. Is that why obviously shoes are important? I mean, what are your top tips to really, really look after children's feet from an early age?
Well, I think keeping them free.
Yeah.
And it's easy to do in the pool setting.
Yeah.
But often, it's a social thing that feet should be covered up. Feet should be in shoes. It's the social norm. I know when I started, I was born in New Zealand and grew up, I think, fairly much barefoot. My mother tells stories of me stubbing my toes and things like that. But on moving to the UK nearly 10 years ago, the looks I got as I walked around my village and up and down the street and the comments I got when I was barefoot, because it wasn't really socially acceptable. And so there is this mindset that shoes are there to be worn, like we put clothes on, it's part of an item of clothing. And from the moment you wake up in the morning, you put socks or shoes on your feet. And possibly also living in a colder climate, there is more of a desire to cover up the feet because you get cold feet. But the feet are really just like our hands. And unless it's really cold, we never cover them up. So for healthy feet and healthy development, to keep the feet as free as possible is really important. And one of the most important factors that comes in there is there's thousands upon thousands of nerves in each foot. And if we cover them up, if we put them in a shoe, then those nerves sort of get dumbed down and almost switch off because they're only feeling one sensation, a flat shoe. Or if you're only barefoot at home, you're feeling the carpet and wooden floor and tiles, all fairly flat surfaces. So the feet are a sensory part of our body that need to be exposed, need to be free to feel and sense the world. So, for a baby coming to a swimming class to feel the water, they're feeling the temperature, be it cold, warm, that sort of thing. They're able to splash and see what happens. On a more solid surface, they can feel how long they are. And as they kick their feet against the floor, it provides information to the brain that, well, that's how hard I can kick, and it gives this reaction. So they're exploring all the time, gathering information. And so the more textures, the more different sensations that the baby can feel, the better it develops the brain and frees the brain for other things, because it knows that sensation, that it's safe, it's okay, and they can then go on to develop in other areas. So, the water's a great thing, but, where, your hold of, either the feet are in the parent's hands or against the parent's body, this touch to touch is so important. And, I can just imagine all these little signals going up their little legs and through their body and igniting and firing in the brain as this touch happens. And of course, what you're doing in the teaching is the social interaction aspect as well, which is so important in growth and development. So, the brain and the feet, they connect and are so important. And the more a child knows where their feet are, the more aware they will be when they start moving and walking. A thing called proprioception. Where am I in space? And then, how can I run and jump and as I grow and get old? But there's another aspect to the feet.
Yeah, do share.
And that is with all these nerves, if we come back to all these nerves, being barefoot and in nature connects with Mother Earth. And I don't know if you or your listeners are familiar with grounding, or it's sometimes called earthing. And this is how the body can absorb electrons from the earth. And the benefits of those, parents will love. It's improving sleep. It calms the body and mind. So, in terms of babies and themselves, why wouldn't they want those benefits of being out in nature and absorbing these electrons? And again, for the health and well-being through the electrical, the nervous system of the body. And the great thing, I was exploring this in terms of how I could link it to water, because water is a natural
conductor, definitely, of energy, and 100%, yeah.
Absolutely. But it's the water that's connected to ground through concrete, or through nature, that has the most electrons available in it.
Yeah.
And it's all very well being in a pool or at the beach or that sort of thing. But if you've got a little baby, like how do you get this grounding or earthing happening?
Yeah.
And most baths have metal pipes, and the metal pipes go down into the ground. So metal's a conductor. And so being in a bath is a grounding experience. So taking what they learn in your classes to practice at home in the actual bath will have so many benefits. What you've taught them, plus also grounding, and of course the warm water, it helps calm them and soothe them. But the grounding which happens particularly through the feet, and obviously the hands, because of all the nerve endings, for me is it's a huge benefit.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. I'm so glad you said that. That's really magic, music to my ears, because we actually have a program called Bath Babies, and we're creating a really smooth transition from womb to old, and then really advocating that when children are practicing to come into their home and practice in the bath. So to now know about that added benefit is amazing, because we live such busy lives, don't we? And to have a safe space where we can come, and it's not just about relaxing, actually we're grounding, we're actually really, really benefiting the body. It's almost like an electrical reset, really, isn't it?
Absolutely. And it's simple. It's free.
Yeah.
And it's something that, either parent can do in terms of connecting with their child and that sort of thing. The other benefits and why barefoot is important, and I talk to parents a lot about this and connecting in with, shoes or no shoes, is that the baby learns to move through primitive reflexes, and there's 2 in the feet. And if the feet are contained, there is not that opportunity to integrate those reflexes. And one is similar to the grasp reflex of the hand, where the toes curl, and the other one is where the toes splay. And those are really important when it comes, to walking, feeling secure on the ground and that sort of thing. And the other one is obviously once they become upright, we want natural alignment. Yeah. So as those bones grow and develop, we want them to be upright in the most natural position. But a lot of normal shoes these days have a raised heel. And in my book, I've drawn a diagram there of the effect. It turns your child into a banana. They have to throw their pelvis forward or tuck it under or adapt in some way to keep their eyes level and be able to move. And that's not optimal. We can cope with it when we're older and wear high heels. We can adapt. We pay for it the next day. But we don't want them as they're growing and developing to be in this situation.
And I think, as you say, sometimes we maybe don't appreciate our older children, maybe, as you say, 10 to 15. We've got to just remind ourselves that it's still very much developing, and what we put in at the beginning comes out at the end, isn't it? It's really, really, we're shaping our children's development, and wow, how amazing we can actually do that starting at their feet. But going back, I absolutely love when you were saying about the containment holds. That's what we call our wholesome moves, our bare feet, where you're so right. We're using our parents' hands, we're using the pool floor. We find that this is almost like a safe space for our babies. It's putting them back into almost flexion, really, that womb-like position, and then they can really go in on themselves. And you quite often see it's such a calming hold and move. So if there are any parents and listeners out there that really want to settle babies, you can really, really start with their feet, because it all happens in the womb, doesn't it?
Absolutely, and the womb is their safe, space. They're contained, and I think what you're describing is a very natural and loving sort of containment, that safety hold.
Yeah.
But please don't get confused. Our feet don't need to be contained in shoes.
Yes, so true. Yes, it's almost like it's their original love bubble where we're really using our arms and, just as you say, add in that extra nurture. But definitely they've got bare feet. In actual fact, they use their feet to explore and push off. And do you not find that babies almost intuitively know how sensory their feet is? I mean, how many times are they just naturally playing with their feet? I mean, wow, I wish I could go back to that, like happy baby.
Absolutely. And if you watch a baby when they're feeding and when they're eating, they are so expressive through their feet as well. They're always sort of moving and reacting and responding. Yeah, absolutely. I think they're an expressive part that we've just been covering up and hiding away.
Yeah, definitely. I was so drawn to the chapter about gross motor skills and sensory development. I mean, early movement, as you sort of mentioned, in the reflexes is like the driver, isn't it? Of it almost sets our path, doesn't it? But not just physically, but emotionally too. What sort of practical ways can we share with our listeners to really, really help? Obviously starting at the feet, but those early movement practices that we can add in the pool and also everyday life, really.
Well, again, everyday life, I'm going to make it really simple, and really affordable, and say that what a baby needs is the floor.
Perfect.
So the floor to be able to explore from, to move from, to feel resistance. And then as they slowly move and grab their feet, that's a milestone that's often overlooked, that child being able to pull up and find their feet, play with them, put them in their mouth. That's a really important stage. But the floor offers everything that a baby needs for this blueprint of development. Yeah. But unfortunately, the marketing gets in the way. You need this, bouncer seat, you need this, that, you need this jungle gym over the top of them to keep them entertained. But if you could create several safe spaces in the home with different lighting, with different things like trees outside the window, close to where you're perhaps cooking, then that provides the stimulation for the baby to look at their world around them, look for you, so turning the head, hear something. I think the senses actually drive movement.
Yeah.
Whether it's touch, whether it's the eyes, whether it's the, sound, it drives the baby to move.
Yeah.
And often we get in the way because we contain them, we put them in things. And I was guilty. My children are young adults now, and gosh, when I was writing the book, I felt so guilty at times. Oh, I wish I could have done things differently.
Yeah, me too. We didn't sometimes have the same amount of information. I mean, baby walkers was really a big thing. And I was so excited when my little one was really just on tiptoes as well, can I say, pushing himself around. And I was like, yeah, he's beginning to walk, not realizing actually that's not a good position to be in, tippy toes.
No, it's not. And, there are a lot of devices out there that we think will help them.
Yeah.
But if the biggest help we can be is to leave them to their own devices almost, because the brain will evolve, the body will evolve in this order that it's created and it's made to evolve in. We can provide stimulation, though, and particularly down at the feet, to expose a baby to different sensory input through things like taking them outside on the grass, so they can feel the tickly prickly grass. We've talked about water, things like sand, gravel, because this all informs the brain. And then the brain, and you put some words to it and they learn. And they know that that's a safe texture. It's okay. The only reason that, and I wrote about it in my book, the old rush across rush across gravel or hot tarmac.
Yeah.
It's really just our brain's interpretation of what we're feeling down there. Our feet aren't getting hurt. It's
Wow.
just our brain has gone, oh. But you can sort of not dumb down, but you can educate your brain that in actual fact, the spikiness of gravel is okay. It's actually stimulating my feet.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not going to be hurt.
Yeah. Yeah.
So providing different sensations. So I don't know whether in the pool you've got the hands, the hold, that sort of thing. Have you got other objects that you could use to stimulate the bottoms of the feet? I mean, blowing raspberries is a nice one.
Yeah. As you say, with the water as well, with bubbles, it really can almost act as like a little water massage. But we can have those beautiful pimply balls on the soles of the feet. Babies
Great idea.
love those. I'm a massive, massive fan, and I know you are too, of the principles of baby massage. We often might do round and round the garden, and we are really just tuning into our sense of handling and touch as a parent, and we're thinking about our tactile preferences, but then also not projecting those onto our child. So when we are holding and handling our little ones, we often use different pressures, but we tune in and think, which one do you like? And then we may be using Incy Wincy or round and round the garden for that. So, and that for me has been a massive light bulb moment. Not many people, we just hold and we touch, but we don't tune into our tactile preferences. And we certainly don't think about, let's hold back and really tune into what the baby would love to receive.
Yeah, it's that what is it, that serve and return sort of thing of looking for the response in the child and the baby as we touch, but absolutely letting go of our own preferences. And I guess that's one thing that comes to mind for me is parents will often say to me, well, I've got cold feet, so their feet must be cold.
Yeah. Well, I always think about tickles. So many parents say, oh, no, that's so tickly. But actually I say, wow, babies don't often find that. In actual fact, they love it. They love their feet being played with. They don't find that tickly. Let's try it. Let's be curious. I wonder if. And they're like, oh, yeah. Oh, I see what you mean. Because we just assume, don't we? We assume by touching the feet, it's going to be tickly. But babies, I sometimes find that they're almost reaching out with their feet. They want, they're seeking with their feet.
Yeah, and to do a variety of touch on the feet, from tickling to the firmer pressure. And all of those are going to be, I guess, tuning into the reflexes as well, because the reflexes are a response to touch.
Yeah.
So all in all, it's a win-win. Yeah. Touch and water and feet.
We don't have to add in all the plastics. I often see these sensory almost tiles, shall we say, but when we think about all the textures around the pool, they're there naturally. We've got the wall, we've got the tiles, we've got the mat, we've got the floats, we've got the water, we've got the steps, we've got we wouldn't walk on a bar, but certainly sometimes doing monkey, or they sort of put their feet under the bar. There's all these different textures, but sometimes we don't look at our environment naturally and then build from it. We add in. What do you feel about the sensory tiles? Because they're all different textures, but it's all made of plastic.
Well, it's better than nothing.
Yeah.
So if you don't have access to outside in a natural environment where you can get such wide range of sensations and textures, then I think they serve that purpose.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But, similarly, how you were just sharing with what you've got in your, pool environment at home, again, we don't need to buy lots of things and even lots of toys. A child will play with a pot.
And a saucepan, bang.
a saucepan, a pan, for a long time. and they're actually learning about something that they're going to be using down the track, rather than playing with a toy that's been it's plastic, it's built, that sort of thing, and it serves one purpose and then they're done with it. So I think, we could, create a more sustainable world if we tapped into our resources around us.
Definitely. And I think that's a really important message, that at some point we, as adults, we really, really do have to stop what we're doing. And as you say, strip it all back. And if we can educate our children, they are the guardians of our world. And I'm so passionate, like you are, about our blue planet, and particularly water, because we all know what's happening to our waters of the world and with plastics. So what we're doing actually adds in weight to have a really, really educational message as well, not adding in, but protecting. And if it can start at the ground with our feet and just having that as a real base layer, really, wow, in 10, 20, 30 years time, we could actually be living in a better blue planet.
Wouldn't that be lovely?
Yeah, certainly. Well, I think that's a really nice message to pause on, because I think it's really worth sinking in to think about what we're doing in the pool, what we're doing at home to strip it back simply, but also that wider message as well. It all starts with your feet. So Bernie, what have you got planned, and where can we find your book? I'd love to know.
Yeah, thanks, Jo. So my book's available on Amazon and all the digital platforms. And I've got a website, which is bernielandels.com. But you can also find me via findingtheirfeet.com. And I have obviously Instagram and a Facebook page, so, happy to have followers there. My next plan, I've actually just relocated to Australia. So I've, after 9 years in the UK, a wonderful 9 years, I've settled in Perth in Western Australia. So I'm still close. But looking to be closer to my two boys, which are in Auckland. What's on the cards for me next is another book, which is going to be some practical tips for parents, particularly dads. I'd like to get dads a little bit more involved in the physical development, or help them understand, what they can do when, if the mother's doing the breastfeeding and the nurturing and those sorts of things. It's like everything a dad does builds the brain. And of course, it's going to have from the foot up, because that's so important. So, yeah, something along those lines. Watch this space, but that's the plan. And just to continue getting the message out there in terms of the feet and the simplicity of growth and development, and how, as parents, we just need to take a step back, be a little bit more hands-off, and observe and watch your children grow and develop in a natural way, in a natural environment.
I can't wait for that. I think you're so right that dads bring a new playful aspect into our lives. So yeah, let's watch this space, and I'd love to preview and promote that for you as well. So that's amazing. Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Aqua Sensory Way. It's so nice to have you here tuning in today. Let's connect again soon. I'd love you to find out more about creating sensory harmony in water. Come and join us on our socials and in our community Facebook group, Aqua Sensory Connections.